Hi.
Hello. Where does the Watchtower find justification for its informer policy? We're on page 367 of the Misuse of Disfellowshipping in Ray Franz's In Search of Christian Freedom. Ray begins, as basis for this insistence that witnesses must inform elders of infractions by fellow members, even in violation of confidentiality, the Watchtower earlier referred to cites the Mosaic law provision contained in Leviticus 5 verse 1, which says, "Now in case a soul sins in that he has heard public cursing, and he is a witness, or he has seen it, or has come to know of it, if he does not report it, then he must answer for his error." End of the Leviticus quote. The article then draws these conclusions, and this is a direct quote from the magazine. This command from the highest level of authority in the universe put the responsibility upon each Israelite to report to the judges any serious wrongdoing that he observed, so that the matter might be handled. While Christians are not strictly under the Mosaic law, its principles still apply in the Christian congregation. Hence, there may be times when a Christian is obligated to bring a matter to the attention of the elders. True, it is illegal in many countries to disclose to unauthorized ones what is found in private records. But if a Christian feels, after prayerful consideration, that he is facing a situation where the law of God required him to report what he knew, despite the demands of lesser authorities, then that is a responsibility he accepts before Jehovah. There are times when a Christian must obey God as ruler rather than men. Of course, reference to Acts 5:29. While oaths or solemn promises should never be taken lightly, there may be times when promises required by men are in conflict with the requirement that we render exclusive devotion to our God. When someone commits a serious sin, he, in effect, comes under a public curse from the one wronged, Jehovah God. All who become part of the Christian congregation put themselves under oath to keep the congregation clean, both by what they do personally and by the way they help others to remain clean. That's the end of the quote.
This certainly lays a heavy burden on the individual witness, and the writer of the article endeavors to convey an equally heavy sense of guilt to any who do not report the sins of fellow witnesses to the organizationally appointed elders. Cleanness of the congregation is emphasized as the overriding factor justifying the position taken. But cleanness for witnesses is determined by organizational rulings, whether the scriptures speak on the matter or are silent. And the procedure for helping others to remain clean is also prescribed by the organization and its procedural rules. This is what makes so ominous the insistence that all members view themselves as under oath to keep the congregation clean. In its justifying the violating of confidentiality, the Watchtower article uses an illustration, the case of an unwed witness woman submitting to a hospital abortion. However, as has been seen in Chapter 8, with a multitude of organizational rules and regulations, the extent and variety of possible infractions calling for reporting could run into the hundreds. It would mean that a witness working for an accounting office who saw from invoices that a witness business owner had put a roof on a church or installed an alarm system in a church would view it as mandatory that the matter be reported to the elders. It would mean bringing accusation against a man for having accepted an assignment to work in an old people's home in place of taking military training, or for spreading insecticide in a military base, or against a woman for earning money by making beds in a barracks. It can mean feeling that one is under oath to report to the elders if a fellow witness expresses inability to accept the teaching that Christ's kingdom began in 1914, and he is the mediator for only 8,800 people today.
While the article states that Christians are not strictly under the Mosaic law, one wonders how a stricter application of this particular law could possibly be made to Christians today than that set forth by the writer of the article. The distinction made between law and principle becomes as a distinction without a difference. The fact is that Christians are not strictly, let me say that again. The fact is that Christians are not just not strictly under the Mosaic law. They are not under it partially or otherwise, but fully under God's gracious kindness. The article does not merely apply the principle of this regulation, which might be said to be one serving the interests of justice and righteousness, but applies the letter of the law in contradiction to the apostolic teaching. And here he quotes from Romans 6:14 and Galatians 5:4 and 18. We now have been discharged from the law because we have died to that by which we were being held fast, that we might be slaves in a new sense by the Spirit and not in the old sense by the written code. And also references 2 Corinthians 3 verse 6, which says, "For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life."
Mm-hmm.
So in the next segment, more justification, again from the law, for the informer policy.